Okay guys and girls, yeah, sorry it's been a few months since the last update. The GT sort of ground to a halt through lack of funds. So anyway, customer's quite happy for me to show progress on his restoration. So we'll be going with a XC Falcon he bought, partly restored, and I'll have a quick run over what needs doing. He put apparently supposedly a Recode 9-inch under the back of it. He wants me to put ventilated rotors front and rear, slotted rotors front and rear. Do up the brakes, generally spruce up, and the engine that he bought to go with it, I've got to pull the bottom and the top off that and have a look, see if it is what was actually advertised, and we'll go from there. So I'll add in a few photos of what I've already done, and we'll go from there. Okay, this is the XC we're going to be looking at here. Customer's brought this in. He wants the original 6-cylinder. We're converting to a V8. It's been painted. Some of the work on it is well, substandard, shall we say. And he got it's fairly ugly in places under here. And we've got leaking master cylinder and paint coming off everywhere here, so I have to pull all that apart. Originally 3 on the tree, it's going to be a floor shift with a single rail, so that'll have to go. Now we'll be putting slotted rotors on here and new pads. We'll be putting new padded springs in. Now this is the Recode diff. I've already started doing a bit of work on it. Now the springs in it were lowered really low. Now these springs, when the car was just sitting on it, were pretty much dead flat. Now the difference is there's the difference in height from a lowered one that came out of one of my old cars to the lowered one out of this. So it was pretty much on the bump stocks. So we'll see how that works out. We'll fabricate some new brake lines, and we'll rebuild the brake calipers, and we'll see how we go from there. Okay, so the first axle pulled out of this fully Recode diff apparently. Not looking too flash, so I've knocked the studs out. Now you can get the rotor off if you get this the right way. It will actually rotate out of here. Again, it can be exciting, but with a bit of effort, a lot of patience. And if you get it just the right way, this will rotate out through the rotors. Here we go, and around, and around, and there we go. That's it. Lovely, Recode diff. Very impressed. I'll get him to do all my work in future. Anyway, okay, and now we're down to the bearing. Seal's obviously let go, so the bearing's going to be knackered. I'll show you an example of that later on. Okay, step one, get the retainer off. Now, everybody got their own way of doing it. This is mine. As long as you're careful, don't whack the seal surface on a nice solid bench and a big hammer. Just need to whack that retainer a few times. It won't take too long before it spreads it and starts to come loose. As I said, everybody got their own way of doing it. I'm sure there's other people that want to do it differently. But so long as you don't touch that seal surface down there, in my experience it's always worked fine. Okay, retainer's off, like so. Now, bearing's not quite so easy, so for that we'll get inventive. Okay, so the way I do it is start with this. Not under the retainer, because we don't need to get under the retainer, just under the bearing. Like so. As much as I'd like to have every puller and pusher and everything under the sun, we've got to make do with what we got. So my solution to getting this off is you can't push through there because you hit the retainer plate, and I haven't got a long enough puller to pull off the top of it. So what I did, after I get this tightened up, I just got that and put that in the lathe, and that fits just perfect in there like that. Now all I've got to do is push down on the axle, which we'll do next. Okay, so here we've got it in the press. With that piece of pipe, I faced it up in the lathe so it's all nice and square, and this should just push out quite easily. And we've got about 2.5 tonne of pressure on that, so not much, but tough to do by hand. And once it gets through there you go, easy goes. Okay, now I said earlier I would show you why I always replace these bearings when the seal fails. Now they're a fully sealed grease double row ball bearing, designed to take in loads and up and down loads. Now, because the seal sits inboard of this, keeps the oil into the diff, and this runs in its own grease. Once that seal fails, the oil washes the grease out of the bearing, and then we finish up with this. Well, most of the grease washed out, only lasts a couple hundred k's, and then you've got a very pissed off customer, or pissed off yourself if it's your car. So yeah, they don't last. After the seal's failed, they just do not last. I don't care, in my opinion, doesn't matter if it's been leaking for 5 minutes or 5 months. If it's leaking, it's stuffed. So I always replace them, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I might be a bit OCD. Anyway, I got on the lathe and knocked this up just for putting the putting the wheel studs back in. Fairly straightforward. That sits on the bottom. Sorry. And stud goes up from the bottom, sitting in place. That comes down from the top. You press on that. Stud pushes up through the middle. Everything goes together. I already put them together, so I can't give you a demonstration. And most people probably just bash them in with a hammer, but like I say, I get a bit carried away at times. But anyway, that's that bit. Okay, so I've already started assembling these. I've pressed the wheel studs in and the bearing on. Now to put the bearing on, I made this little gadget. Doesn't look like much, but putting the bearing on, same as putting the retainer on. Same deal. Put that on. Put that on. Into the press. You have to be a little bit careful you don't get the retainer caught when you're putting the bearing on. The retainer, the actual retainer, but the bearing retainer now will push on. Doesn't take a lot. Now we got up to about 5 tonne there. They're not the biggest retainers, unless you're putting F-series ones on, then it's a bit more of a challenge. They're about 4 times the size. And there we have it. All pressed on, nice and easy. New bearing. And good as gold. And a little jigger I made, made out of a piece of scrap, for pushing the bearings and bearing retainers on. Took about half hour on the lathe. Probably shouldn't have took that long, but anyway, it was only a bit of scrap. It was a bit of an odd shape, and makes it pretty easy to put it together. Okay, so both new bearings, cleaned up axles, slotted rotors. Now I'll see if we can pretty up the brake backing plates a little bit, and we can put that bit back together. Let's see how we go. Okay, see if we can get these off here. Looks like whoever rebuilt the diff managed to paint that bit. Couldn't paint that little panel beat that bit. It was a pretty special sort of a diff rebuild, but anyway. The diff centre's the right colour. I couldn't say about the rest of the inside of it, but we'll hope they did something right. Okay, well, they won't take too much cleaning up. Had to be something that was going to be easy. So these, we'll have to try a bit of panel beating on those. We'll see how we go with that. Okay, I don't profess to be a panel beater in any way, shape or form. So any panel beaters watching what I do, bear with me, I'm just doing what I can. Surely we can make it a little bit prettier than this, I hope. Get a pretty good beating. Okay. Okay, well, not perfect. Up a little bit. A lot better than it was. Yeah, like I said, they're not perfect, but a lot better than they were. We'll see how we go with that, and I'll give them a bit of a wash up and a sandblast, and let's see what we got. Okay, had a bit of a run through the wash bay and through the sandblaster. Not too bad. A bit of a crack here to weld that up, and the other one, a bit more of a crack here, so I have to weld that up. But yeah, not bad for the age, I suppose. Anyway, so we'll weld them up and see how we go. Okay, weld it up. Not too bad, should be fine. Another one as well. Give it a coat of paint. And count on it, the phone will ring or the compressor will start every time I turn this thing on. Anyway, we'll put some paint on. Okay, all painted up. Came out not too bad. Took a couple of goes, seeing it was so bloody cold here in the workshop tonight. But anyway, that should do the job. And we'll move on from there. Okay, back again, it's the next morning, paint's dry, and put these back on here. Now you've got to note, these come in the right and the left-handed because of this. So, they go either way, these don't. That's got to finish up at the top on the inside, on whichever side you put it on. Okay, that's a start. Now we get to put them back on the cutter. Okay, so I put a bit of grease on the sieve already. Goes in there. Okay, long and short axles, long axle to the right side. Try not to rest any weight on the seal if possible. And line up the retainer plate after get everything to go in. And line up the retainer plate with the longer part at the bottom. And hopefully that'll all go together. Not always as simple as you would hope, unfortunately. I'll pull those back bolts out just a little bit. Just you don't manage to fluke it and line everything up first go, like I did. So that, once you get the first one in, the rest of them should go pretty good. I did say should go pretty good. Anyway. Two in, three in, four in, and just some nuts on there, and we'll be good. 9/16 deep socket, and it should all just go together. Fairly easy, but just trying to get your fingers in there. Now they've got these dome type nuts, so all the way around is good. And a lock, three-sided locking nut. As you can see, and you can see that very well, but there's three crimp sides on those little dome type nuts. Ford's version of an eye lock, but they're not an eye lock. Nice and firm, but no point overdoing it. They're only a 3/8 bolt after all. So swinging them with something too big, it's going to be all over real fast. Be careful those T-shaped bolts don't get stuck at the back and not go all the way in, which I have seen happen. They'll turn a little bit, you think you've got it tight and you haven't. Okay. Yep, all good. Look at that. Goes around. Don't even scrape on the backing plate. The backing plates aren't perfect, but a lot nicer than they were before. Okay, so same as the other side, I've already put the seal in there. The seals seat fairly deep, they're about 2 inches in, but they've got to be because the big deep double bearing goes through here, it sits in here. So, yeah, don't be careful if you're doing one of these, you don't not put the seal in far enough because it can be deceiving. You feel like they look like they're in far, plenty far, but in reality, the actual bearing retainer is going to hit the seal, which I suspect is what happened on the other side when it was done. Okay, and the short axle for the left side. Again, I'll get the retainer the right way up with the pointing side of it down. I want to rest it on the seal if you can. And hopefully I'll get it first time this time. A little bit of luck maybe. Just trying to line these bolt holes up. Get the retainer the right way up. One in, so hopefully the rest will all line up as well. One. Okay. Send it around with the sticky beak, the pointy piece of the retainer at the bottom. The bolt going through there, looks good. The other side, we use the socket to put the nut into the bloody hole. Weren't quite all the way in there. That's not very handy. I've got to drop the nut. Ow. Very unhandy of me. Not finished up inside there somewhere. My bloke did say that he thought seeing the bloopers was unusual. Well, here you go. One blooper for you. I'll drop the nut on the inside, so I've got to pull it off again. Not really that hard, but try not to pull that backing plate off again, but not going to make that much difference. Pop it out. That nut's going to be stuck down the back of the brake rotor, I'd say. I couldn't feel it with my fingers. There she is. Okay, let's try that again, shall we? See if we can line up the first one. One's done. Second one through. 2. Just chase the other nut I've got before, and it ran halfway across the workshop, which is real helpful. Anyway, and the fourth one. Okay. Close those up. Double check, make sure that the T-bolt at the back doesn't catch sideways. And lucky last. Okay, lovely.